if it's going to happen, it's going to have to come from, the person struggling. And that's what we say in our practice too, is you have to want it. No one can like put that on you to want to heal. Like it has to come from you in order for change to happen.
Isabel Megale, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Tommy. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you. For the audience, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and a bit about where you're from?
Sure. So I'm from New York, born and raised. I just moved to Manhattan, but I'm actually back home on Long Island right now. I work virtually for a binge eating therapist. I'm her program manager and co coach. And I also work on social media, running my own, what started as a passion project turned into sort of like a side gig that still has all the passion in it. So, kind of the best of both worlds. And yeah, that's what I'm pretty much up to now.
So, working remotely you mentioned a therapist, that's right?
Mhm.
How is that? How did you start doing that?
I got into it through my own personal journey with food and body. I struggled with that throughout college and in the year after college, so those 5 years or so. And just through my own healing, I came across my boss's page and her company, and just that was my doorway in to connecting with her and getting a position there.
What's the name of the company?
Ryan Nicole Wellness.
Oh, wonderful. Sounds
Yeah.
like they're doing important work. Now, you mentioned this is from your own personal, that you found your way here through your own personal journey.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about, if you would share about what that experience was like for you?
For me, I like am very lucky. I grew up in a very non-diety household. Yes, we had the healthier mom who like had the healthier snacks, but nothing was really off limits to us as kids. So I was really lucky in that way. And my perception of food and body really changed going into college, where I was exposed to things like freshman 15 and all these
Mm,
different kind of like rhetoric and language around food and body, especially in Greek life, which I was in for just like literally a week, but that was enough. That was a lot. Um,
sure.
and just my experience at college, I went to UNC Chapel Hill for a year and a half, which is where things really, like I said, picked up for me and snowballed. I was
Mhm.
not in a good mental space, and I felt very out of control in my situation where I was being, like I said, I'm from New York, so that was far from home for me. I was just very unhappy there. And so I felt out of control. I was like, where can I turn to for some control? And that's where I fell into health. Like, I'm going to pursue my health and like put all of my energy into that. If I can't do anything else for my situation, I can do this. So I turned to, intermittent fasting, started very innocently with like, well, this is good for me, like this is what online says to do to improve your health. I'm going to start there. Invested all of my time and energy into that. Very quickly, I started isolating myself to pursue these habits that I learned from online. I didn't have many friends to begin with there, but the one friend that I did have, stopped seeing her. She was my roommate, so that's really a feat, honestly. Like, I stopped seeing her. I had all my meals alone. I was waking up really early to go to the gym, staying out very late at the gym, no time for anything else besides literally going to class and doing these habits. Um,
Mm.
so it was very ritualistic, very rigid. If I broke one of my rules, that, got worse and worse and more strict over time. If I broke one of those rules, the punishments were really hard on myself. During this time, food and my body, how I looked, were on my mind 24/7. I think that's another indicator of how like this is a serious issue, is that all of your energy is going towards that. Even if you're not eating or moving in any way, you're thinking about what you're going to eat or what you already ate or how you're going to quote make up for what you did yesterday or last week or 2 weeks ago, because those things stay on your mind. You're thinking about it 24/7. I think also during this time, for me, like I said, it started with control and then it morphed into the body aspect. I didn't really fall into this because I thought I, quote, needed to lose weight, which I feel like is a main way that people develop eating disorders. It's a super common way. And I think when that isn't talked about enough is the need for control, because eating disorders are about more than food and body. They're a lot deeper than that. And they're mental illnesses. They're not a physical illness, even though they can manifest physically, it's mental. So I feel like it's really important to say like that aspect of control is really, not talked about.
I just wanted to go back because you were kind of getting into a rhythm, but I did want to kind of go back for a second to, you mentioned that you were eating alone and constantly thinking 24/7 about the food you ate, the food you're going to eat. I guess it would really be like an obsession. And you also went into a bit about how it's a mental health disorder, that it's on your mind 24/7. So I'm just kind of wondering, the line, I guess, is the starving yourself, right? Or would it be all of those parameters added together into one full sort of experience?
Yeah, I feel like that's a great question. We actually talk about this a lot in the practice that I do for work. So, because we have clients that come and say, well, I get really excited to eat. Is that wrong? Like, should I not be super excited or think about it? Yeah, exactly. And what it comes down to is the intention behind why you're thinking about that. And I like that you use the word obsessive, because I feel like when it is obsessive, that's where there's like red flags that need to come up, because you can be excited for like Christmas dinner or any meal. Like I can be excited for dinner later tonight because I'm just excited to have the pasta, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the point of obsession, it's always on your mind. You can't like stray from that thought. Then I think that that's taking over your mental space, and that's a little too much. Not just I think, that's pretty much the idea with that.
Yeah, and I want to circle back though to that isolation point, because I think that it sounds to me like when you pair those two things together, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounded like you're avoiding your roommate, which sounds impossible. I went to university too, and if you share a room with someone, that's a difficult feat, as you said.
Yeah.
Is it the shame of eating in front of somebody, or is it the shame of how much you eat in front of somebody, or is it? I mean, can you elaborate a little bit on the reasoning for the isolation, and then kind of go into why that would constitute a disorder?
For me, it was, I only allowed myself to eat for X amount of time. Like I was very to the minute. Like I said, I was very rigid, and that was my time to enjoy my food, quote, enjoy. Like I wasn't actually, in my mind, I was having a good time with this meal at the time, and I didn't want to be interrupted. This was my time with this plate. And when I finish this, I'm not getting it again for X amount of time. So I need to be here.
And so I'm wondering, you mentioned you isolated yourself, and during that period of isolation, was there anyone that you could reach out to for support during clearly a difficult time?
Yeah, I honestly didn't know I had an issue for all of that time. I thought I was doing things, quote, right, according to the internet. I was being healthy, and I didn't pay attention to side effects like losing my period or, losing weight. And since I was away at school, my family didn't see me very often. They didn't really know what was going on behind closed doors. So no one really saw me doing these things. And that lasted after I transferred from UNC. That lasted through my rest of, college at Boston College. No one was really paying attention to that. I didn't think I had an issue. And I was actually labeled as like the fit, healthy friend, which kind of just like promoted everything I was doing in my mind. So for me, when I did realize, actually my Instagram is a big reason how like I, found a community in this and how to reach out for support. That's like one of the superpowers of social media, I think, is I started learning like, okay, maybe what I'm doing isn't normal. Like not everyone is doing this. Not everyone has this relationship with food or their body. So I got a glimpse of it there. And then during COVID, when everyone was sent home, I was home from school. My mom came to me and she was like, I noticed this. Are you okay? And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, don't. I shut it down immediately. I got really defensive because my best friend was my eating disorder. I was like, don't talk about her. You don't know what you're talking about. And then as things started to I saw more resources online, like maybe this isn't so normal. Maybe I should reach out for help. I started to find other people who posted different things that kind of contradicted what I thought. And I didn't necessarily have this moment where I was like, I'm doing it wrong. It kind of was slow a slow buildup of information that I was like, okay, so this person is not, doing this with their food. I'm getting other ideas from people. It slowly built up. And then I would say my rock bottom moment where that maybe was a shift, like a very 180 shift, was my senior year. I remember this so clearly. It's really funny. But this is also very common among clients and people who have eating disorders. I feel like you hit this rock bottom moment where you can't go on anymore. I was in my senior year apartment doing my forced workout so I could earn my food and whatever, all these, my rituals. I was in the middle of that and I just burst into tears. It came out of nowhere. I just literally, I was overcome with emotion. And I said to myself, I literally can't do this anymore. I remember saying that verbally too. I was alone in that room, of course. And I said that out loud. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so I called my mom and I said, Mom, I think I have an issue and I need your help. I don't know what to do. And like I said, this was a slow buildup. So I had a feeling before, a month or so before that maybe I'm not doing this. Maybe I should talk to my mom about this. And I shut it down. And then I got to college and this happened, or I went back to school, I should say. And this happened. I called her and she was like, yeah, we know, let's do this together. We're so glad you came to us.
Well, first of all, shout out to your parents, because that's amazing that if they had an indication it's amazing that they knew to have you come to them. I feel like a lot of times when you try to ask someone to stop something in all things, whether it's poor eating habits or, drinking too much or whatever the case might be, when the person's forced into it, it almost has the opposite result when they're forced into changing. And so shout out to your parents for understanding that, I guess, and really doing the right thing by you. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. And I agree. My mom had that experience where I shut her down for even questioning what I was doing during that COVID lockdown period. She knew if it's going to happen, it's going to have to come from, the person struggling. And that's what we say in our practice too, is you have to want it. No one can put that on you to want to heal. It has to come from you in order for change to happen.
I agree. You have to want it. For sure. And that's important for people who are listening to know that, you can make your own choices and yourself if you're honest with yourself. So
yeah.
Were there any groups specifically that you leaned on? Any sort of eating disorder groups or where people have similar issues that did anything like that work for you? Or
So
maybe you can speak on that.
Yeah, I totally can. Like I said, I called my mom. That was the fall of my senior year. And we were like, okay, let's try some therapy. So I went to an eating disorder therapist in my area. I went to school in Boston, like I said, and it failed. I went for, I think, 3 or 4 sessions, and I guess I hadn't fully committed to it, and I just quit. I was like, this is stupid. I'm not going to get any better. What's the point of going? So I was, I quit that. I spent more time by myself, and I really turned to my social media page, which I just took a leap of faith kind of, and I posted a little caption saying I'm experiencing this, X, Y, and Z, just sharing what I was going through at the moment. And people really resonated with that. People connected in the comments and off, out of the comments in the DMs. And I really found some people that were like, I am going through this, or I already went through that and I know what it's like. I know it can get better. And through those connections online, I found more people like that just by, word of mouth, hearing about different people to connect with online. My page quite literally turned into a diary for me. I was dumping thoughts in those comments and those captions. It helped others as much as it helped me, which is really special. I found it just a great outlet to release the thoughts that were in my mind of what I was going through. And I was really honest and open and vulnerable, and people connected to that more than anything I'd ever posted before. And I feel like that's really a cool thing that doesn't get talked about. A lot of people think in order to have an eating disorder, you have to go to treatment. And that's not the case. A lot of people, it's a harder route for sure, but a lot of people recover without going to inpatient or outpatient treatment or even seeing a therapist, whether it's virtual or in person. It's possible to do it by yourself. It's possible to do it through a group on social media. If you just find the support group that connects to you and you resonate with the most, I feel like that's the most important thing, whether it's professional treatment or not.
Are there any misconceptions or myths that you hear regarding eating disorders that you'd like to address with everyone?
Yeah, I think the first one is that eating disorder, you can tell that someone has an eating disorder based on how they look. That's like the number one for me. Like I said before, eating disorders are mental. They may manifest physically in different ways, but you can't tell if someone is struggling with an eating disorder just by looking at them. I benefit from thin privilege, and I know that a lot of people don't, and they face this stigma of, well, obviously you can't have an eating disorder if you look like this. And that is really damaging, and that prevents a lot of healing in a lot of people. They don't seek help because they don't think that they qualify, quote, to having an eating disorder. So
That's totally true about, like, you look at somebody and you know nothing beyond the surface of what they let you see, and to really think, oh, this person's probably got life all together. That's why I always say you should lead with kindness, because you just never know the silent battle that someone is going through on the inside, and we should all be sensitive to that. Anyone could be going through anything, no matter how they look.
yeah, and that small act of kindness could make their day, honestly. Like, you don't know what the rest of their day was like, and maybe that one act of kindness was the only thing that kind of got them through that. So I love that.
Absolutely true. I got goosebumps even thinking about it, because I know exactly what you mean, and that is absolutely true. What would you say to those who are struggling with mental health and having a hard time seeking the help? People who are kind of stuck and not taking that first step towards the outreach.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the first thing that it might seem daunting when I say it, but finding your reason for doing it, and that seems really hard. Like, well, what the hell is my reason for doing anything? Especially when you are in that state of, I'm hopeless, I'm never going to get better. What's the point of even trying? Just starting very broad and working your way down to something. So, for example, for me, and like also what we do at work, I'm pulling from that a little bit, but saying, why do I want to heal my relationship with food? And then answering that question. And then with that answer, why do you want that? So if I want to heal my relationship with food to live a fuller life, why do I want to live a fuller life? And then getting that answer and asking again until you get to something that actually matters to you. And you're like, okay, I actually can make change towards this. This is something I am actually motivated to do. And an even smaller step than that is still a big step, but smaller than that is just joining a support group. You don't have to share anything. You can join them for free and just read what others are posting. Facebook has a million different support groups out there for very specific niche issues. And they're, like I said, free to join. So you can scroll through there, see that others are relating or sharing things that you relate to, that you've gone through, and just knowing that you're not alone. I feel like those small things actually are huge and push you towards that.
Gosh, Isabel, thank you so much for coming on the show, getting so vulnerable with us, and speaking on an issue that is super important and that will resonate with a lot of people. I think people are going to benefit greatly from this particular episode. So thank you for joining us on Adventure Tide Chats.
Thank you so much for having me, Tommy. It's been really fun. Thanks.